Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
It's Keith Grieve Show here on LateNightSportsRadio.com. It's the National Championship Edition, folks. That's right. 34-30 North Carolina over Villanova here with about a minute and a half left in the first half. Talk sports as they happen here on Late Night Sports Radio. This show brought to you, as always, by CG Imaging. That's cg-imaging.com. CG Imaging, virtually creating reality. So, yeah, we got a jam-packed show for you. We're gonna talk some college hoops to start the game. Was trying to get Mr. Bob Sullivan to come on the air, but his response to me was, "I'll be at the bar. I'll let you know if it's dead." It's not gonna be dead. I wish I knew which bar he was at, 'cause I'd love to call the bar and have him paged, calling Mr. Bob Sullivan. Mr. Sullivan, you have a phone call at the front desk. Anywho, so I'm watching this game, and I hope you took the under, kids. So, about a minute 52 left, I guess, is the official time. It's 34-30 UNC. They've come back to kind of, the Tar Heels, that is, to shoot their way back to respectability because they were having a little trouble early, but credit Villanova's defense. You watch Villanova, they don't look physically imposing, but they just play solid defense. You really got to tip your cap to Jay Wright, and I know he just won the Coach of the Year award the other day. But it really is a fantastic job. We're not going to talk about the Final Four games all that much, because I don't want to relive Syracuse just getting what was coming to them. Finally, a game that went the way it was supposed to go. Anyway. But you look at Carolina's got 6 turnovers in the first half. They're winning the rebounding battle when they're only up 4 points. Because early on, they struggled from the floor. But Joel Berry II, if you're looking for a name as to who is being the catalyst here, I mean, not only is he the only player on either team right now in double figures, but Carolina's got 34 points, and Barry has 15 of them. And he's on 6 of 7 shooting, 3 of 3 from behind the floor. So I need to ask this question, because I really don't know. And by the way, if you want to call in here, the phone number is 585-633-7487. That number again is 585-633-7487. What's the difference between having the second, like Joel Berry II, or junior? I've never heard of somebody being called the junior. Or the second, I mean. It's always been I'm so-and-so junior, Joel Berry Jr. Joel Berry II just sounds pretentious to me. And I could be completely wrong. But it just does. But anyway, he is the only reason that there is anything to jump and shout about for the Tar Heels. It's 36-32 now, ticking down within the last minute of the first half. But I hope you took the under, kids, because the over-under on this game was 151. And as much of a defensive struggle as this game has been early on, they seem to be picking up the pace a little bit. I don't think they're going to get that 151. And as we go down the road, it's just going to get chippier. And on that avenue, as we go down this avenue now, and oh boy, another 3 for Carolina, 39-32. Villanova, I got to tell you, This is heartbreaking because Carolina is just on fire. 7 of 9 from behind the arc. If you're playing basketball, you're gonna let your opponent beat you from that distance. You just are. You're not gonna go crazy trying to contest the 3-point line. But when a team is just on fire like they are, you get burned. And Villanova hits the buzzer beater, 39-34 from 15 feet. 39-34 at the half. So if you're Villanova, you're down 5, but they've made 7 threes in the first half on 9 shots. That percentage can't possibly, if you follow the law of averages, can't possibly continue in the second half. So you got to be feeling pretty good about where you are. But now, if you're Villanova, though, now you've matched Carolina's 6 turnovers in the first half. You can't do that in the second half, especially having to erase a deficit, and you're getting out rebounded. But you would think that Carolina should be up major going into this. I know they were only favored by 2. I didn't see this as being that close of a matchup. I know Villanova's 34-5, but I just didn't see it. And if it turns out I was completely wrong, because if North Carolina isn't shooting the way they are from outside, it's a very different story in this game, I think, in my humble opinion. But then, so they get here. Villanova beats Oklahoma. And I said in the Final Four, and I said last week on this show, that if Buddy Hield doesn't lead his team to the national championship game, is he worth all the hype for the NBA draft? And I don't know if I've really changed that opinion. I mean, we talked about, Ben Simmons a couple weeks ago. And we all want to criticize Ben Simmons, and rightfully so, because he couldn't even get his team to the tournament. But if you're not going to consider Ben Simmons a number 1 overall prospect because of his inability to take over and lead a team, is getting to the final field enough for Buddy Hield to overtake that spot? I don't know. You look at that game the other day. And 95-51. It's Oklahoma not only put up 23 points in the second half, they gave up 53 more. Hield shot 4 of 12. And the biggest stage, the brightest lights, 4 of 12 with 4 turnovers. Didn't even break double figures. Now, the only good thing about, that game is that nobody else on Oklahoma seemed to be able to shoot the ball either. Villanova, on the other hand, shot 71% from the floor. So where are we with Buddy Hield and his NBA status? I don't know. The NBA draft, for all the Karl Anthony Towns and the flashes that we see from Jahlil Okafor, there's not a whole lot of young NBA talent that really has me jumping up and down and excited. You want to know another guy that did absolutely nothing to help his NBA draft status, and not that he was going to be a top 5 pick or anything like that, but Syracuse's Michael Benajay. Absolutely awful in the Final Four game against North Carolina. Couldn't throw a rock in the ocean. And on a team like Syracuse, that, like I said, that was hot garbage offensively, he wasn't able to step up. So where are we? With Buddy Hield. Are we on the Buddy Hield show? Is taking his team to the Final Four enough, even though he seemed to have disappeared in the national championship game? I'm not ready to crown any of these guys. It's all a crapshoot. If you got the number 1 pick in the NBA draft, you might as well trade out of it. Get the hell out of it. Because there's absolutely no guarantee any of these guys is going to be worth building or rebuilding, or if you're the Philadelphia 76ers, continuously rebuilding. Your franchise around. 585-633-7487. 585-633-7487. I'm looking at Bleacher Report's mock draft. And they have Ben Simmons going number 1 overall to the Philadelphia 76ers. That would be so freaking apropos. I can't even stand it. Everybody Hield going 3rd overall to the Phoenix Suns. Again, yes, I know the lottery hasn't happened yet, so we don't know who's really going to be picking any spots, but Ben Simmons to Sam Hinkie and the Philadelphia 76ers. God. Could you picture a more perfect fit? Because let me tell you something, kids. Ben Simmons is going to be a bust. There's just no way in my mind that you'll ever convince me that he's going to be anything else but a bust. For all the reasons that I've gone on the record on this show of saying before. You can take over your team in basketball. In college, you need to be able to. In the pros, not very easy at all. But in college, if you want to be a top 5 pick and earn confidence of somebody that you're somebody to build around, then you need to, for lack of a better term, prove it. 6'10", 225. You got to spend pretty much your first offseason in a weight room. You're going to try to play power forward in the NBA at 225. Got to add on at least 5 to 10 pounds of muscle. Got to get stronger. Looking at his stats per 100 possessions. 30 points per 100 possessions. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Then why couldn't LSU make the tournament? Why wasn't he good enough to elevate LSU? I give Buddy Hield 10 times more credit than Ben Simmons. If I have to choose the two, I'm picking Buddy Hield first. I know they're different positions. But if I'm like having some kind of expansion draft and I'm starting from scratch, and I have to pick between those two guys with the first pick, I'm picking Heald. And we won't even get into the fact that Simmons didn't even attend a class for most of the second part of the year at LSU. In fact, if anybody from LSU ever listens to this podcast, I would love for you to email me a picture of him in class with you. You still got it's March. You still got a couple months. You should still be attending classes, right? I know he's not. Oh, we should do it. We should check in on the tournament challenge here, the contest for the beer stein of knowledge. My entire Final Four was wrong. So disappointed in myself. 67% I got. I'm going to finish third. Stevie G 28345. Sounds like a stormtrooper number. You are the champion. We're gonna have to get you get your mailing address somehow. Like to live up to my promises. I know. It's so rare nowadays. The second half is about to kick off. So if I'm Villanova, what do I have to do? I have to not turn the ball over. I have to keep doing what I'm doing defensively. I wouldn't change much because I don't believe Carolina is going to shoot like this in the second half. You've got to ride that tide until it stops. And hopefully it stops. If it doesn't stop, then we might have to do something. We might have to tweak a little bit because you're down 5 and you only got one half left in the college basketball season. Got 20 minutes left to figure this out. But offensively, I'm not doing much differently. Villanova is shooting 58.3% from the floor, 43% from behind 3-point. If it was any other game, you take those numbers in a heartbeat. Chris Jenkins has 2 fouls. That's the only concern that way. This is definitely doable from Villanova's standpoint. We're going to take a break, play a tune. When we come back, John Maloris from 87sportsfans.com is going to join me. We're going to go through the opening day Major League Baseball scoreboard from yesterday and today and just share our thoughts on it all with you. You're listening to It's Keith Grieve Show here on LateNightSportsRadio.com.
hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
Check the vibe.
It's Keith Grieve Show here on LateNightSportsRadio.com. Keith Grieve taking you all by my lonesome through the second program, but I have a special guest, a very special guest, John Maloris from 87sportsfans.com. If you're a fan of his writing, I know you're yearning for more because we all are.
It doesn't happen all that. I was on a good streak there for a minute.
You were on a fantastic streak. I dare I say, encouraged.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. There's other articles that just haven't been, quite exactly posted. They've been written, just not thrown up there, just because of one thing or another. But man, yeah, no, I was on a good streak there for a minute, and then, life happens and things happen, but the thoughts remain, which is the good part, and why I enjoy doing the radio stuff.
Me busting your chops is almost as entertaining as reading your articles. Just so you know.
Hey, mine are to the point. You get some precise. You get good analysis. I don't just give you the numbers. I explain the numbers to you. That's what I try to do.
Right.
In most of my articles.
Right. So,
really, no. I thought they were coherent, right?
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Okay, well, good.
For once, I'm agreeing with you.
All right.
So
I'll case,
oh, I'm sorry, but
no, go ahead. I was saying I'll take it.
In case you didn't know, it's that time of year, kids. Major League Baseball is back. This is probably the one song that makes me think baseball more than anything else.
Pretty much anything by CCR makes me think baseball. Yeah, that, and they're gonna get the center field. Because you're a big Bruce Springsteen fan.
No, this is.
Am I correct?
This is center field. This is by John Fogerty.
Okay, Fogerty. What's the other one then? What's
Glory,
the Bruce Springsteen
Glory
song
Days. Glory Days. You're thinking of?
Yeah, that's the one. I think he used to play center field in that one too, didn't he?
No, he was.
No.
He had a friend who was a pitcher, and that's how that story of that song goes.
What's with the outfield love though? You know what I mean? When it comes down to it, you think about, everybody's like, oh man, that outfielder. I'm thinking when I'm thinking about studs, I'm thinking about shortstops, aren't you?
Well, if you've played the game, you take more value in the infielders that are that much closer to the ball, and have to do multiple things. Right. The outfielders, you just shag balls in practice. It's
you can still look cool doing it. You know what I mean? But here, that's where this comes into me. I was actually thinking about this question the other day when it was during spring training, and you saw Yoenis Cespedes. There was a ball that allegedly had gotten stuck underneath the wall, between it, that 4-inch gap there at the bottom of the wall in spring training, and he just stood there with his arms up like, hey, ground rule double, the ball is stuck, and the umpire walked up to him and just flicked the ball out from underneath the fence. I was like, yeah, dude, that completely wasn't stuck. And I'm worried, and thinking about whether or not you're worried about what it's going to be like having a full season of Yoenis Cespedes on your roster.
Well, based on yesterday, it's not all that encouraging. Dear God.
I mean, he's going to give it to you. I mean, obviously the guy's going to be productive, and he has been. He kind of goes through his streaks and has a couple injured things. And from what I understand, he enjoys a cigarette, so he'll be a guy smoking up in the hallway there before he goes out and takes the field. But it's still that attitude. And you think about how many different teams he's been on over the course of his major league career, and it seems like there's just never a happy medium anywhere he's at. And so this is his big payday. Winds up with the Mets, and seeing everything else that they did to that roster, I'm encouraged. I like Neil Walker. That's a guy I'm worried about, injury-wise. Asdrubal Cabrera, same thing, another one of those guys, and same thing with David Wright. But at least they beefed up the defense a little bit when you're looking at that fantastic rotation they have.
Yeah, but the thing that drives me nuts is that first inning of the first game, there's a ball hit right at Cespedes. And it goes off the heel of his glove. It wasn't even in and out. It went off the heel of his glove. It's lazy is what it is. But it's like it's opening day. You're in the stadium of the team that deprived you of your World Series championship, and you play like that.
Yeah.
I just to me it's inexcusable. I kind of have this. I'm given to hyperbole when I like get ticked at athletes.
I'm with you though. I'm with you. I mean, if I were a Mets baseball fan, I'd be pissed off. You know what I mean? Just knowing that. Again, I mean, the guy's playing out of position by being in center field to begin with. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, that's going to be a concern for me. But just knowing that that's his mindset. That's the effort. That's the amount of effort you're going to get day in, day out. For me as a fan, that would bother me quite a bit. And same thing. I mean, that should bother Terry Collins, but you're doing what you got to do to fill that roster with guys that you're hoping can create some offense for you. When you have one of the best pitching staffs in all of Major League Baseball, if not the best. I mean, you can argue that all you want, but when you look at DeGrom and Harvey and Syndergaard and Matz, that's really something that's going to knock you down, especially when you're expecting Zach Wheeler back at some point.
Well, yeah, there's plenty of options there, but
yeah, you need more though.
Right. The team that a lot of people are picking to win it though, the Cubs. Near and dear to your heart there in Chicago.
Yeah, people tend to like them. Obviously, they poached a bunch of guys from St. Louis, so that's going to help them out a bit. And when you think about the division itself, Cincinnati, Milwaukee, they're both rebuilding. You saw Cincinnati, I think they got stomped earlier today. That was a matchup where I was like, all right, well, this is kind of the way you're going to expect things to go, where you have to win those easy games against those teams like Milwaukee, like Cincinnati. Actually, Cincinnati won 6-2. They won the game against Philadelphia there. But Philadelphia, again, another team completely rebuilding and not even trying to fake it. It's just happening. So, I mean, those are the games when you're going up in a division like that where you have to expect to win those games. And the games that you lose against those teams are really going to affect you when it comes down to the long haul, especially in the Central there, between the Cubs, Cardinals, and Pirates. I mean, the Cardinals and the Pirates have both gotten worse technically on paper. But again, it's the guy that's at the helm. And you've heard quite a few things. In particular, St. Louis Cardinals fans are very protective of their team. They've even come, quite a few times to argue against Mike Matheny and some of his in-game managing. And the guy's a catcher, so I'm going to back him up a little bit, knowing that's my, baseball life has been a catcher. But with such a keen eye on everything, it just seems like some of the stuff when it comes down to the in-game management, he's just missing. And then you take away these guys from his roster, and you're going to assume that talent's going to be there in the minors. And hopefully for his case, that does come true. But between Brandon just going down relatively quickly here, and that was a replacement for Yadier Molina. That injury is going to bug me a little bit. I'm not sure if there's enough depth there pitching wise. Behind Wainwright, there's obviously quite a few names, guys that have proved it quite a bit, but. Overall, I just think they have a weaker roster, and the same thing I'm looking at Pittsburgh. I'm not sure if that bullpen's quite what it used to be. That lost a little bit in terms of their starting rotation, and it's going to be interesting to see the way things play out here because baseball is going to baseball on you, and so you can't just assume that spending the money in the right ways is going to pan out for you. But I do like the guys that the Cubs went out there and signed. It wasn't just a popular name. It wasn't, some guy that's going to hit 1 million home runs for you or strike out 1 million guys. It was people that fit their mold and what they're trying to accomplish there. And that's why they're able to bring these guys in. I feel like they buy in. They're comfortable signing these guys, these larger deals. But these guys are willing to take lesser money to come to the Cubs. And it just goes to show the heart that they're going to give. At least I would say, especially when it comes down to pro baseball. You look at all the money that's invested into this, and guys that are willing to take less money. You really don't see that all too often. So I think they did spend the money the right way. And if you look at it, man, I'm not going to say the Cubs are going to win it all, because I'm not going to be that guy. But as a homer, I am going to realize they do have a really great team pieced together here. But I can't say they're going to win 97 games.
So who do you think is going to win it all? Who's your prediction?
Honestly, when I'm looking at it, it's a couple of teams I'm kind of keeping an eye on. I'm keeping an eye on the Nationals,
Yeah, of
just
course you
because
are.
Dusty Baker. I'm not full blown into his whole mantra and philosophy as a manager, but the roster he does have on his hands. I mean, if things pan out, you're looking at a guy like Strasburg, career year. This is a good time for him to pop up and kind of step up and finally take that next step, which it seemed like he was kind of lacking for quite a few years there. So that's something I'm looking at. Health obviously going to be a major concern for them, but again, Nationals, Mets, and the Cubs. Those are the teams I'm looking at. To be at the top of the NL there. And then when you kind of flip it over to the other side, you look at what Toronto's done. I think Toronto's solidified their spot. And honestly, I still like Seattle. I mean, they made a bunch of moves, at least in terms of bringing Jerry Dipoto in, and he really flipped that roster around. And when you look at what Seattle used to be and what they're dealing with now, there's definitely more talent there. They went through, made quite a few moves to solidify the starting rotation and even their lineup so much. By bringing in guys like Adam Lind, I really like Martin, the center fielder they brought in. That's a guy from Texas where he kind of had some injuries. And, they were going ahead with him as the center fielder of the future up until Delino DeShields Jr. showed up. And then kind of, while Martin was hurt, he stepped in and just kind of filled that role and they didn't have to relinquish it. No, but I'm looking at Seattle. I do like Houston. I like Toronto quite a bit. I was kind of surprised Houston chose to go with Ken Giles as their setup man and Luke Gregerson at Toronto. And, man, I guess I'm going to say Cubs, Toronto and the Cubs.
Oh dear God, God help us.
See, a lot of blue there, a little bit of red. The colors might confuse some people, but when it comes down to it, I think just the bats that Toronto has. I mean, here for instance, let me just pull this number up real quick for you. Toronto, out of they had 232 home runs last season. Okay, Josh Donaldson, Jose Batista, and Edwin Encarnacion produced 120 of those home runs. That's 51.7% of their home runs. And they scored 891 runs last year, first in the major leagues and the only team with more than 800 runs scored. And so when you combine that with a guy like Marcus Stroman kind of coming into his own here, you still have R.A. Dickey there. You brought back Marco Estrada. They did bring in Scott Diamond, former Minnesota Twins prospect, number 1 draft pick. They brought him in along with Jesse Chavez from Oakland. J.A. Happ, I thought they maybe spent a little bit too much for him, and they've kind of seen that act already. But when you look at everything they put together, I'm pretty confident in their pitching to combine with what they have on offense and their defense to actually be a formidable ball club. And when it comes down to the Cubs, like I said, just a lot of the right pieces, and barring something unfortunate happening to one of the major younger guys on the roster, I really don't see them faltering with Joe Madden at the helm.
There's two teams that all of the pundits, if you will, I think are grossly underestimating. And one is the Mets. I don't see enough people picking them. But the other one is the Dodgers.
See,
there are holes on that pitching staff.
Right.
But that lineup is as good as anybody's.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I mean, it was smart to they got a really good deal on Howie Kendrick, being able to bring him back. But I think Seager's going to be solid for him. Corey Seager, one of the younger kids that's coming up. Josh Turner, I'm all right with him. But Adrian Gonzalez, Yasiel Puig, he lost a bunch of weight. I think that's going to help him out quite a bit. But I'm not so on Jock Peterson. Between him coming up, came up at the same time as Chris Bryant last year of the Cubs, and it was kind of a competition between the two. And then once it hit the All-Star break, Jock Peterson just straight fell off. I mean, that's the one thing. The Cubs, there's a lot of guys there that can hit the long ball. They do strike out quite a bit. I think that was the biggest. That's why I'm sold on them this year, I should say, is because of the addition of Ben Zobrist, Jason Hayward. Those are like on-base percentage guys that you're bringing in. They're not going to provide a bunch of home runs for you, but they're going to go out there. They're going to play great defense, and they're going to be able to get on base and that's what they're focused on. And when I look at the Dodgers, it's still a lot of strikeout guys. And, I'm not very sold on that. And you look at the fact that just the pitching depth isn't quite there. Okay, maybe the depth is there, but the overall quality in terms of what you're going to get day in, day out, I just don't think that's there. And that's kind of why I'm not sold. And you know what? They really didn't fix their bullpen. That was a big problem in my eyes. I don't see enough names there that tell me they can pull this off. You know what I mean? There's
right.
Quite a few notable names, but I mean that's what made the Royals so good. Is that they had those 3 lockdown guys in the bullpen. The Cubs don't have that. But the Dodgers, I mean, I'm just not sold on what they put together, at least in that aspect.
Oh, and again, the pitching staff is the question mark. But you look at this roster right now. You got Ethier on the 15-day disabled list. Yasmani Grandal on the 15-day disabled list. Howie Kendrick on the 15-day disabled list.
Yep.
And they're still fielding a lineup, with A.J. Ellis, Adrian Gonzalez, Justin Turner, Yasiel Puig. They may not be world beaters, but they can play. The
White Sox can compete with that.
They can play. But this is a lineup that in baseball can just kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Steam engine locomotive through the year. You know what I mean? Just kind of chug along.
Right.
Today they go out and the opening day they beat the Padres 15-0. It's the biggest opening day whitewash in Major League Baseball history. If you're a Padres fan, seriously, just check back in June. Seriously,
and that's the thing too. When you do look at their division as well, and that West there, you look at Colorado. They're not going to be doing anything this year. Same thing with the Padres. AJ Preller, he's still trying to piece that thing together. And it's going to be tough. At least I'll give them that. In terms of Arizona, Arizona's made a bunch of strides towards the right direction. Maybe spent a little bit too much, traded too many prospects, being called prospect suspects if you'd like. But when you look at it, I think they made major improvements to their team. In particular, I love that Gene Segura move to acquire him to fill shortstop. So I like the Diamondbacks. The Giants, obviously, I think in everybody's books are the front runners at this point, just because of the additions they made to their starting rotation. You look at Matt Cain, hoping that he's going to come back finally and be healthy for you. Those are all major factors, and so. It's still probably going to wind up being the Dodgers or the Giants. I'm going to go with the Giants to go ahead on that one. But it is going to be a tougher run knowing that the Dodgers don't just have to worry about, the Giants anymore. You know what I mean? The Diamondbacks are there. They're real. And you're not going to have to worry about, the Padres or the Rockies.
All right. John Maloris from 87sportsfans.com, the host of the Johnny Babo Show, Thursday night. What do you got planned for us Thursday night before I let you go?
Thursday night, we got our musical guest will be Pleasure Horse. They released a new single. And then we're going to be talking baseball with our guy, Jay Jaffe. We've had him on before. We're going to have him on again. He's so damn good, and he's hilarious. He works with SportsIllustrated.com and always on MLB Baseball Network. Definitely a guy you should check out. But we get rolling at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. That's happening. And we're going to talk a little NFL draft. I don't know if we're going to bring on our guy, Jim Sarantias, the Fantasy Greek. We might get on Jim Wiedner. We're going to work on a few different guys. We just want to talk NFL draft. So we got that big event coming up.
All right. Follow him on Twitter at Malioris. That's how you spell it, guys.
Yeah.
Malio.
You got to say it that way. If you don't say it that way, they won't find it.
Yeah. Well, and you don't use it all that often, so.
I retweet the hell out of everything.
All right.
It's the original tweet, so you got to dig for it.
It's much appreciated. Have a good night, John. Thank you.
You got it. Thank you, Keith.
Bye. And I cut him off unintentionally. And it's at this time we bring our good friend Jim Sarantias, the Fantasy Greek himself, from thefantasygreek.com. Jim, welcome back to the program.
Keith, thank you for having me. How are you tonight, buddy?
Oh, we are rocking and rolling. This hour-long format, you're chugging after a little bit.
Yeah, 2 hours, you have to pace yourself. Here, you're just like, go.
Go.
I like it.
You watching any of the national championship game?
I have not. It was just kind of embarrassing. As soon as I got onto Twitter, I saw the tweets about the game, and I'm just like, yeah, there was a big game tonight, wasn't there? My wife got home. She got home a little late, but we needed to spend some time together, so that's what we did.
44-44, Villanova has tied the game up. 13:43 left to go in the game. So
Villanova's amazing.
It's turning into a good one. All right, so let's talk some NFL, shall we? And the big scuttlebutt all over the internet and all of social media and mainstream media has been this talk about Colin Kaepernick and possibly going to the Denver Broncos, meeting with Gary Kubiak, exchanging recipes and all this other stuff. And apparently Kaepernick didn't want to forego a whole bunch of money, so he's just gonna kind of sit put for now. If somehow this works out, we know that Kaepernick's a mess, and the 49ers aren't all that high on him. If he ends up in Denver competing with, Mark Sanchez or whoever it is they ended up with, do you think that Gary Kubiak's the guy? Do you like that fit in Denver, fantasy-wise, I mean?
It's in terms of a fit in his system. His system calls upon a short and to mid-range passing game with a few deep shots here and there. Yes, I think somehow Gary Kubiak and Colin Kaepernick would work things out. I like Colin Kaepernick with the Broncos because of the fact that they have a running game and they have a hell of a passing game. And this is just an opportunity to sort of, he needs to get out of San Francisco. I think he's damaged goods psychologically. If the general manager has no problems with him taking meetings with John Elway, that I think speaks mountains. And the fact that he's the presumptive starter, now that he's back with San Francisco, says a lot about how San Francisco feels about its quarterback's position and probably what it's going to do in the upcoming draft. So, and I think they have, I pulled my draft picks up for you, and they have 12 draft picks to trade. So, to watch them be one of the teams making a move to move up to grab one of the two quarterbacks, I think makes a lot of sense. And I don't know that they'll go for number one. I don't think the Titans will ever get the kind of value that they probably want with the number one overall pick. And I don't know that I would want the number one overall pick given the success rate the teams have had with that pick. But number 3 sure looks inviting.
Are we getting ahead of ourselves? To think that Chip Kelly doesn't want Colin Kaepernick? What do we know about Kaepernick? We know that he's an athletic. You know what? I
think Colin Kaepernick and Chip Kelly work fine together. I think this is an offense that is going to be run heavy, so that certainly appeals to what everybody's perceived weaknesses of Colin Kaepernick, which is his arm. But they're going to take some shots, and Colin Kaepernick is flesh. He's done enough to prove that he can be a great NFL quarterback. I think things got all screwed up when John Harbaugh and 49ers management came to blows. And they've just never recovered. I think it affected the entire team. We've seen players retire in the early 20s. So, okay. That doesn't say anything about the head coach.
Right.
So, I really think that Chip Kelly and Colin Kaepernick could work together. The issues with the 49ers aren't that. Denver wants Colin Kaepernick. I think they've made that pretty darn clear. And I think part of what we've seen is John Elway posturing for 2 reasons. The first reason is it's economics. I think, and I'm trying to find their cap number, but I want to say their cap number is right around, they've only got about $1.1 million to work with. And let me try and find the exact number. Yeah. It's 1.058. So they're going to have to make some roster changes in order to bring Colin Kaepernick or pay him a lot of upfront money, take his contract and convert a part of that to a bonus, which is, I think, why they were asking for them to either Colin takes a $4 million cut or the 49ers pay part of the fare. And the 49ers, and I don't blame them, I'd say, F you. And if Colin Kaepernick, I would definitely say F you because somebody's paying me $11 million this year.
Right.
I don't care who it is. And, if you want to restructure me for long term, that's fine. But you're going to give me a bunch of guaranteed money. I'm not going to take $6 million this year and then set something up where I get a roster bonus for next year. And if I'm not on the roster, suddenly I'm on the street and I don't get my money. Yeah, that ain't going to happen. So this is all on John Elway now. He's going to have to make the decision if Mark Sanchez or whoever they're going to draft in this draft will be the starting quarterback for next season, because they're running out of options unless suddenly Ryan Fitzpatrick becomes available, because the Jets are still screwing around with that situation.
You got to be careful. I mean, because where are the Broncos picking in the first round? I don't even know off the top
32.
of my head.
32.
I didn't know if they had a traded draft pick that they got.
No, they're 32, and let's see how many picks they have. We have this all available on the fantasygreek.com. They have 10 picks, so they do have a couple picks to trade if they wanted to move up. But I don't know that the Broncos would have enough to move up to number 1 or number 2 or number 3, and certainly I don't know that the Browns want to trade back. And the Titans, like I said, I don't think they're going to get what they really want for that pick.
Yeah, because all of a sudden the Broncos have they have a question marks at quarterback, obviously, but also they lost Danny Trevathan out of the middle of that defense. So it's like if you're trying to figure out who you can package to move up in the draft, you don't really have a whole abundance of assets to go along with your draft picks. You know what I mean? Where you may have had strength in the linebacker position before, now I'd be a little bit less than, what's the word I'm looking for? Excited. That's not the word I'm looking for, but that's the word I'm settling on. To move up in the draft, to draft one of these quarterbacks, and you have to give up, multiple draft picks plus a pretty good talent. You know what I mean?
Well, here's the problem. They're going to need at least one defensive player, 2 actually, now that I'm looking at their depth chart. They're going to need a couple of offensive linemen. They're going to need another running back at some point, probably with a later pick, unless they do resign Ronnie Hillman, which was in the news today that was being considered, or there was some discussions between Ronnie Hillman and the Broncos bringing him back. So, quarterback is just one of several things that they're missing on this team. But unfortunately, quarterback's a pretty big position.
Yeah.
That, if you've got to look around at, what you're going to fill, well, you're going to fill that quarterback position as soon as possible. Picking at 32 is not all that bad. There's going to be a couple good quarterbacks right there, probably Braxton Lynch, probably Dak Prescott. Mm-hmm. But are these guys going to be ready to go in week 1? That's a big question mark.
Yeah.
And maybe Mark Sanchez is sort of a short-term, you're hoping to get, assuming they don't get Kaepernick, that he's a short-term filler for maybe 4 to 6 weeks until one of these young kids can get up and going, and they throw them in there and off they go.
Yeah, the elephant in the room is Ryan Clady. Because they went out and signed Russell Okung.
They've resigned
Clady. So now you've got 2 left tackles, pretty much. And the word on the street initially was that Clady would be at least shopped around because he's not happy in Denver.
Well, I didn't realize he wasn't, because I was going to say they could just slide him over to guard.
Yeah, well, I'm sure.
Or to the right tackle, whatever. There's a place for Ryan Clady on this offensive line.
Yeah, exactly. And I would agree with you there. But there was rumors that what's the word I'm looking for? Clady was wanted out for whatever reason.
He's unhappy. He just changed the scenery. He doesn't like what John Elway's doing with the team. That's totally understood. In fact, if you look at the offseason moves of the Broncos, and again, for the listeners out there, come to the fantasygreek.com, check out our free agent transactions tracker, which is still on the homepage, and you'll see, a lot of their guys from last year that were free agents, they're gone.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was because the Broncos didn't want him back. I think these guys genuinely wanted to leave.
Yeah, it was like a mass exodus. Even C.J. Anderson wanted out.
Yeah, it's what these players have said after they've been re-signed or signed by new teams suggests they're not happy with what John Elway's been doing. And he might have been in a weird situation given Brock Osweiler. I think that was the big signing. That was the big thing that they needed to do, which they did.
Right.
And, suddenly, Danny Trevathan's mad because, hey, guys, why didn't you re-sign me a few weeks ago when I was more than happy to take a little bit less? Now I got the Bears in my face. Well, whoever else was talking to him at the time offered me a lot more money than you even were indicating, so I'm gone.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so moving on from that, the other thing that I'm seeing on websites, everyone's trying to mock draft, and a few of them have Ohio State running back Ezekiel Elliott falling and being available at 11, and saying the Bears would take him strictly from a best player available on the board standpoint. If you're the Bears, you just let Matt Forte go pretty cheaply, by the way, to the New York Jets. And you're saying that the reason that you made that decision to let such a popular player, such an effective player, go was because you felt comfortable in your young running backs. Do you just go ahead and take the best player available, even though you in your mind you're telling everybody you're set at the position, unless obviously you don't really feel that way, or two, you're just trying to use it as trade bait?
Well, that's interesting. I didn't consider the trade bait, and I didn't know what you're talking about of mock drafts mocking him to the Bears. I have seen the question raised, as you've pointed out, what if he is there? What do the Bears do? And, I don't think it is far-fetched to think that they might take him despite having Jeremy Langford. I mean, it made sense to let Matt Forte go. I do not criticize the Bears. I think that was a great decision based on the fact that Forte's probably got 2 years left. Jeremy Langford looked like he could carry the load, and certainly Kadeem Carey could be the backup. But they're probably going to need another running back in this draft. I didn't anticipate them going early. I think you have to see how things end up. I mean, if there's a great edge rusher available, I think they'll take him. Better yet would be one of the top cornerbacks, because the Bears have done such a good job this offseason restocking their defense. Mm-hmm. You could look at their defense and go, here's the starting unit. Nobody needs to be replaced. They're ready to go. But I could see them, if there was a top cornerback there going that way or a top edge rusher going that way. But if Ezekiel was there, I think that would be really tempting, because there's the potential for him to be your running back for the next 6 to 8 years. I mean, Langford could be the answer too, but heck, why wouldn't you? Like, as you pointed out, best guy available. Because I have him gone in the top 10 picks. So for him to be there at number 11 would be intriguing. It'd be, I think, a call that Ryan Pace would probably make in favor of taking Ezekiel.
It was Bucky Brooks from NFL.com mocked him to the Bears.
And he probably did that. They've done several mock drafts. If this is an exercise to see, well, if this is the situation, what do you do? If this is the situation, what do you do? Which makes sense, because that's what general managers do. They're spending the time right now thinking of every little possibility that can happen. And if this player is there, do we take him ahead of him, or this ahead of that? And what if the two guys we really want, there's this other guy that we never expected, but what if he's there for some bizarre reason? You might say, well, then we're going to take him. And because you don't want anybody in the room going, you want everybody on the same page agreeing this is our plan. Right.
And for the Bears, though, I would prefer them to focus on tackle, an offensive tackle, or a defensive end if there's any, if the 3-4 defensive end, if there's anything available. If they draft a running back, I just think that you've got more important needs at that for having a number 11 pick. You know what I mean? If it was like 15 to 20, then maybe best player available. But number 11, you can address a need and have that be a difference maker if you do your homework for a long time to come. Not that Elliott wouldn't be a good starter, but if you like Langford, then and you give him a line to run behind, then you can be successful.
Well, here's the starting offensive line for the Bears. Presumably, not necessarily, Bobby Massey, Matt Slauson, Ronis Grasu, Cornelius Edison, Kyle Long, and right now here are the backups, and really the one or two of these guys is probably a starter. Charles Leno, Ted Larson, who they picked up from the Cardinals, which I thought was a great addition. Manny Ramirez, great addition. And then, some guys that aren't big names. So I think they've got enough depth to get by. They're probably going to add an offensive lineman as a matter of course, whether it be if they don't take one early, it'll be the fourth round. at the earliest. So they've got 9 picks. They are in the driver's seat here. They should be able to get guys wherever they want. If they want to trade a couple of their picks just to move up to, let's say, get 7 guys, they can do it. They're in a decent position. They just got to find somebody that would be willing to bite on some of these latter round picks that they have. For whatever reason, sees value in moving backwards. And there's a couple teams that might do that. The Falcons, for example, they only have 5 draft picks. The Giants have 6. The Saints have 6. The Rams have 6. The Colts have 6. And these are teams that, generally speaking, have great needs on defense, and you can generally get pretty good defensive players later in the draft.
See, the thing with the Bears and their offensive line moves is that Bobby Massey told everybody he was brought to Chicago to play right tackle. So that would mean long sliding back into guard. But then they go and they sign Manny Ramirez, who is a guard. Unless Ramirez can play center, because I am not impressed by Hronis Grasu last year. He's got a lot of growth left to do. He can't just be better than last year. He's got to be good, you know.
I think right now Manny Ramirez is probably going to be penciled in either at right guard or right tackle. Kyle Long one of the two of them is going to be playing on the right side. It's either going to be Ted Larson or Hronis Grasu at center, Matt Swanson at left guard, Bobby Massey at left tackle, and then they're going to add hopefully somebody that can play either left tackle or left guard as a deeper backup. Charles Leno, who I don't know how much playing time he had last year. He was drafted in the 7th round, so he wasn't at least initially viewed as a starter. He was viewed as a developmental player that would take a little bit of time to work his way up to being a starter, if he ever did. So to see them do that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, it's real interesting. They're in an interesting spot there because they're not, obviously top 5 pick, but they're not at the end of the first round. That number 11 spot has produced some pretty productive players over the years. So.
You know what? I apologize. I'm now just, there's so many names to try and keep track of. Leno started the final 13 games of the season at left tackle. Now, he didn't grade out very well according to Pro Football Focus.
Right. But
the reality is that's still pretty impressive for a guy in his rookie or second year as a pro.
Yeah.
So, he's probably more of a backup if he hasn't immediately jumped out to be a starter. But that's, this is a man's game. He's only, 24 years old?
Yeah.
He's got many years ahead of him. So the Bears, this is why you and I at some point we're going to have this discussion about how the Bears look like the surprise team of the NFC West. They're going to make some people turn their heads. Everybody's probably going to say it's either the Packers because they're getting Jordy Nelson back, or they're going to say it's the Vikings because of that just phenomenal defense that they put on the field every week.
Right.
But if you take this Bears defense, which looks like it could be one of the best in the league, and even just put an average offense behind it, Jay Cutler has – I was about to say Jay Leno. He might as well be Jay Leno. Jay Cutler just has the same season he had last year. This is a team that could really do some damage.
Yeah. I'm really excited, and I'm really excited to see what they do in the draft. But we are out of time, Jim. Where can we find you on the internets?
Come out to thefantasygreek.com, your second opinion for your fantasy football instincts as we roll out all our draft profiles. As I alluded to earlier, you can keep track of all the free agent transactions through our tracker. It's on the home page. If you go towards the bottom, you'll see we have an article posted that tells you how many picks your team, whatever that team is, has, what round they have them in, and what pick in that round they have them in. So that's pretty cool. And then lastly, check out the link to, if you're in Chicago, check out the link to our NFL draft night to benefit Foundations of Music. We're doing it on the night of the first round of the draft, which is Thursday, April 28th at Goose Island, Clybourne. Come to our site, click the link. It'll give you more information. It's a good time. You're going to get great food. There's going to be good beer. We're going to raise some money for a good cause.
All right, and thank you again for joining us. I appreciate that. It's always good football talk. And thank you to John Malores for joining us earlier, and thank you for listening here to It's Too Freak Show here on LateNightSportsRadio.com. We're here every Monday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Wednesday night, the box seats, 10 p.m. Eastern Time as well. And then Thursday night, it's the Johnny Babo Show, also starting at 10. 2 hours of fun, frolicking, and sports. And believe me, it's more masculine than I just made it sound. So thank you all, and have a good week.
Post-game show is brought to you by Christ, I can't find it. The hell with it.